Welcome back, everybody. My name's Ted Davies, and this is Ted Davies Artistry. Hopefully, you're a creative and you're trying to build your business. That's why I started this channel, so we can help you out and get you going and get you inspired to do some great things, make the world a little bit better than it was yesterday. Throughout life, at least what I'm trying to do now in this channel is I'm trying to show you people of inspiration, whatever their walk of life. I've been doing a lot of things with people in California lately, just because the circumstances of what I'm doing now, and just writing scripts and what have you. So you'll be seeing a lot of that type of content. But one person that I really wanted on here was an actor, and her name is Deborah Lee Smith. The thing I really like about Deborah is, she's doing all these things and she's making the world a better place. But the most important thing, not just being an actor, a producer, a director, a podcaster, a YouTuber, a writer, she's an activist for mental health. And with everything that's going on right now in the world, mental health is such a important thing. It has been, from my point of view, it is the most important thing. Our well-being mentally, whether you consider it to be brain or something that is trauma based. I want to help those that are in need in that direction. I hate for anybody to suffer, especially when there's so many options of what we can do to help. Sometimes just listening. Well, her energy on this, I think, is so important and so vital. And I want you guys to see not just her accolades of what she's done in Hollywood and that, but what she's really doing as far as mental health awareness. And that's why I wanted to bring her on. So today you guys are going to be enlightened and you're going to be learning a lot. And you know what? On those days that you're not feeling great, put this podcast back on because it's going to help. I know it will. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm so good. That was like the most lovely intro ever, I think.
Well, it's yours. So, and you very much, you deserve it. The things that everybody, this is Deborah. So say hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
So I'm going to start. Let's just start out real quick, how we always do it. When and where did you land on this planet? And then we'll go through the whole gambit.
So I landed in Claremont, California. That's Pomona Valley Hospital. And
Cool.
That's like East LA. So everyone is always like, oh, you're from LA. I'm like, kinda. I'm from LA where, I like don't, it would be like if you say like you're from New York City, but you're actually from Jersey. Like,
got it.
You're from very far away. I knew no one in the industry. There was definitely no nepotism here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I was, born and raised in LA, didn't even know that acting was a career or that this was things that people did. Like I didn't even really watch TV much as a kid. Like I was a huge nerd, huge book lover. And so I went to Berkeley and got an English lit degree and a theater degree because I was like big into theater. But I definitely like never thought about it translating into film or television or anything like that.
When did you get the bug?
I was in debate club in 6th grade, and
I can totally see you in debate club. Totally.
Yeah, I loved it. It was so fun. And the head of the drama department at the middle school, her son was also on the debate team. And so she pulled me aside after one of the matches and was like, hey, I think you would really enjoy acting. You should audition for the upcoming play. And I did, and I booked a role in it, and that was it. So that was like 7th grade. I got bit, and and that was my thing, like 7th, 8th, all through high school.
What was the play?
It was called Inspector Incognito and the Kansas City Kid.
Okay.
And I played a character that was originally supposed to be a male character. They changed it into a woman, and she was like the mail carrier of this Kansas City town. And I oh my God, I loved it so much. And I remember that I had to wear this like heavy velvet dress because it was a period piece.
Mm-hmm.
was set, I think, in like the 1900s. And so it was this huge dress. And I just remember sweating under the lights and being like, this is the happiest I've ever been. Like, I love this so much.
Cool.
And yeah, I was in.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
you ended up going to Berkeley. What
Went to
was that?
Berkeley.
What was that experience like? I mean, we hear, all the amazing people that have gone there and enjoyed their time there. What was that like?
It was incredible. Like my family is all on the East Coast, and
Yeah,
I love East Coast mentality and just like the walking and just the camaraderie that comes from living in a community that is outside more.
hmm
I think because so much of the year you have to be inside. So when people are outside, they're like really outside and,
yeah.
go to
Seizing
parks
the
and
moment. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And so I remember the first time I remember I did like a college tour, just
hmm
California, and I went to all the UC schools, and I remember like stepping foot on the Berkeley campus and was like, yep,
It's
this is my
history. I mean,
yeah,
it's history.
history.
And you guys can all check it out. I'm not going to go through it right now, but
Yeah.
how many years did it take? How many years did it
It
take?
was 4 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I did like English lit and theater. It was great. I mean, it was very challenging,
hmm
and I um am very lucky that like my parents had saved in order to cover like tuition and
Sure.
those sorts of things,
Sure.
but I still worked 3 jobs. I was an RA.
hmm
That way I was covering room and board because, they could
Yep.
only cover so much. So like I was covering all my room and board, and then I had, 2 other jobs for books and all of that.
Yeah.
Those important things. But I really, for me, college was really important in me finding a community.
Mhm.
But I would actually say that I didn't really like find myself until my next move, which was moving to Australia.
Okay.
Um, I
Which
think that
is that's a huge that's
yeah.
at what age? I mean, you're in your 20s.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
21 when I
Wow.
moved to Australia, and, I just, like, I studied so hard in college, like, I was, like, straight A student in high school,
Mhm.
graduated in the top 10 from a school of, like, 3,000 kids, and so then, by the time I was in college, I still just, like, basically studied. Like, I was definitely the kid that got made fun of all the time for being a nerd. Like, in high school, I got mocked endlessly, and I
Sure.
still took that to college. That was still my mentality. But
Sure.
now I just found the other people who are also considered nerds, and
Mhm.
they're now still some of my best friends.
You found your tribe. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
100%.
me too. So, you're part of
Yeah,
my tribe too now. So I get it. I totally
amazing.
understand it.
Yeah,
I totally understand it. All right.
yeah.
So okay, so you flew down, how long was the flight just to get there?
To Australia,
Yeah. From Cali.
like 15 hours. I
Okay.
think I don't yeah, I don't remember if that first time I went through New Zealand or not. I kind of think I did, because Air New Zealand was cheaper, so it was
Mhm.
always cheaper to fly through Auckland, and so then
Sure.
that's a trek because then it's 13 hours, multiple hours layover, and then another, like, 4 hours,
Mhm.
to Brisbane. But, that was a really important move for me because I my parents got divorced when I was 5, and um, whether she wanted me to or not, I always, like, really took care of my sister, who was 3
Mhm.
years younger than me,
Mhm.
and to separate myself from that responsibility and to be away from my parents completely was really, um, really important for me to have that, experience,
Mhm.
and,
How
I
did you handle that? Because I know I was separate. I left my parents too. That's a hard, and then being so far away. I mean,
yeah,
it's not just hopping a flight home for a couple
right.
hours. I mean, it's like,
For sure. I mean, it was definitely one of those things where there was certainly points because I lived there for 6 years. So, I mean, I went back and forth, but I ended up living there about 6 years.
mhm,
And, there was definitely points where things got really hard that if I would have not been 15 hours away and,
You would have,
multiple
yeah,
thousands of
you would have
dollars,
hopped, yeah, you would have
I would
flown
have hopped
back.
the plane.
Yeah.
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 And so I think that was sorry, my dog is biting me. Ginny.
No problem.
She's a puppy and she's
Mhm.
teething and she's super.
Yep.
Yep, she's loving to play right now.
Playing with you.
But yeah, I mean it was really important for me to have that forced move away.
Yeah.
Um
Well, it stretched you. You got the,
it did.
your, I mean, the whole thing about growing pains, it's hard,
Right.
and it's kind of, it was almost uh, tough love.
Right.
It's almost tough love. She
Yeah.
can get on camera if you
I
want.
know. She's
Everybody will love to see her.
yeah, I'm sure she'll appear at some point. Right now she's just attacking everything else.
But I can totally understand. I left when I was in architecture school. I left and went out to Arizona, and this is in the early 90s. So it was just different times, no internet,
Yep.
and it was so far. It felt like the end of the earth. I can't
Yep.
imagine what you went through, but it stretches us, right?
Yeah.
And that's something you found out who you were too.
For sure. And it was really important for me to see an entirely different culture,
Mhm.
even though Australia is very similar to us in a lot of ways. Just the mentality around leisure
Mhm.
and just like work-life balance and all of that. Like it's just
How bad were the spiders and the snakes?
I've never been that squeamish with
Mm.
bugs, so I was actually okay.
Okay, you're better than, yeah. My wife won't go there. I mean, it's just the the documentaries you see. So,
Right.
but
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had one experience. I ended up living in the outback, and so like there, the spiders are bigger.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
you
it's
lived in
also
Marco's hometown, right?
no. So I lived in Brisbane
Yeah.
originally,
Okay.
Brisbane and Gold Coast.
Okay.
That's where I got my master's degree, and
Awesome.
then I met and that was basically in film production. And the reason that I moved to Australia was because my mom's a teacher, and she never really did the like, hey, you need to get a practical degree, because I was already getting a practical degree, although
Hmm.
English, I don't know if that's practical, but
Tread lightly. All right. Yeah, I
yeah.
got it. I did too. So I
Uh-huh.
got you. I got you.
Although it's interesting because I listened to a panel the other day about
Hmm.
AI, and the person was saying, who's
Hmm.
like a big AI expert, and he was like, I think that prompt engineers is what do you say, is the revenge of the English major. Because
Okay.
he's
Okay.
like, prompting AI is going to be such a very specific task to like
Hmm.
know exactly which word to use.
Hmm.
And he was like, English majors are going to kill it. So, you know, maybe that's my future calling. It's definitely not, but
The future will tell.
yeah,
Future will tell.
exactly. But yeah, so it was, so I got a master's degree because my mom has a master's and she's a
Hmm.
teacher. And so I was like, okay, if this acting thing doesn't ever work out, or like my industry,
Yep.
then I want to be a teacher, I'll automatically have more opportunities available.
Hmm.
I'll get that pay bump. Like it was a very practical
Yeah.
decision to move to Australia.
Got it.
Um, and then I got my master's degree. I met my ex-husband, and
Hmm.
then he was an engineering surveyor, is an engineering surveyor, and we started a engineering surveying construction company together. And so that's why I was then there for much longer,
Sure.
because we stayed and did this
Sure.
business together.
Sure. Understood.
Yeah.
So when did you come back? When did that
I came
transpire?
back, basically, like, 2015. We actually got
Okay.
married in
Hmm.
LA in 2015, and so I was kind of back and forth before
Hmm.
then, but that was really my final
Got
move
it.
back.
Got it.
Miss Junie, everyone.
There she is.
Yes,
She's so precious. I'm glad that you fostered her a little bit though first, right?
we did, yeah, we
Awesome.
fostered her to adopt because, I mean, she was a rescue.
Good.
My last rescue I had before I was with my partner who has 2 kids, and he was not kid friendly. And so it was really important to make sure that
Sure.
our next dog was kid friendly.
Absolutely.
And so it is.
I'm all about the rescues. Everybody knows
Oh,
me,
yeah.
knows Calypso was a rescue, and so was Butterscotch, our cat,
Yep.
But okay, so you got back to LA. Um, did you get right into acting? I mean, right when you got off
I
the
did.
plane, or what happened? I mean,
Pretty much. I was so I did these things called DTASC when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Drama Teachers Association of Southern California, these different competitions. And once you go through it as a kid, you can be a judge as an adult.
Oh, cool.
And so I was a judge, and I actually met someone it was like, I mean, it was literally maybe 2 weeks after I'd moved back. I met this woman who is an actor, like actor, writer, director, producer person. And she asked me if I would read the stage directions for a table read that she had coming up. And I was like, sure. I was definitely I'm still in the, like, I'll do, like, I like to say yes to things,
Sure.
more than no. But I was definitely in the I'll do absolutely anything kind of situation.
Sure.
And so I said, absolutely, did the stage directions. The casting director was there for that. And she was like, oh, you should audition for one of the parts. I auditioned for 3 different roles, ended up booking one of them, and then went to the writer, and was like, hey, so you're shooting this in Arkansas, excuse me. You're shooting this in Arkansas. You're already having to fly me to Arkansas. Why don't I help? Like, I'm happy to just help the rest of the time on set.
Awesome.
And so that was how I fell into producing then, was because she was like, yeah, we would love that. And so I ended up starting as a PA. And then by the end of that project, by the end of the 2.5 weeks that we shot, and then doing post-production and all of that kind of stuff, they ended up giving me a producer credit because
That's awesome.
Done so many things. And so it was really great. And it's been such a seamless, like, not even transition, because for me, like, acting and producing have always been right on top of each other.
Sure. Right. So how does that work? I mean, okay, so now you this basically, they didn't give you free labor. I mean, you gave them free labor, but you're already there.
Yeah,
So
I basically did.
You got credit, and you guys can all check IMDb. Deborah's got it's crazy, the listing. But check it all out there. We'll have that we'll make sure that we have all your links at the end of or in the descriptions and that.
Yeah, great.
How does it work with that type of environment? I mean, because it's, oh yeah, we'll do this for you. Do you get it in writing? Do you how do you, because it's not, you know what I mean? It's handshakes or,
It's a great question. And it's something that I'm learning even now. Like, this will be 10 years, basically, well, next year, but I kind of count 2014, 2015 is when I moved. And I mean, even now, 10 years later, I still have challenges sometimes, and there's always new things that I'm learning as far as contracts, and being like, oh, I should have made sure that was recorded in a contract.
Well, that's learning. I mean, like when I was in architecture, you learn that. You learn about the way, should we charge for this? Is there a change order? There's all kinds, and that you have to learn it. It's baptism by fire.
Right.
How did why activism? What is your draw on? Because a lot of people just don't believe in mental. Oh, it's suck it up, buttercup. And it's not like that. It's really not. Why? How did that segue into what you were doing, and why?
So when my ex-husband and I split up, like 4 years ago now, 5 years ago. And it was it was a really traumatic experience for me. He wasn't like my first boyfriend, like, at all, but I was with him from the time I was 21. I met him a week into moving to Australia. So I was with him from 21 until 31 when we split up. And
those are
that was
that was formative years. I mean,
formative years. Yeah, it
yeah,
was, and
sure.
you know, like, going back to the things that I learned in Australia, like one of the biggest things was about entrepreneurship, like running a business together,
Mhm.
um, the importance of like valuing yourself. And like I attribute my time working in Australia and working in construction as so important for how I am now in the film
Mhm.
industry, because I dealt with so much, just
You're
like
constantly
sexism.
pivoting. You're constantly
Yeah,
pivoting,
I
and
mean that
yeah,
too,
I get
but
it totally. Yeah, yeah,
and so like he was so important for me. And um the marriage did not end well on a good note, and it was not my decision. Um and it happened very traumatically, and so that ended up putting me in a really bad depression.
sure,
And I had never experienced that
sure,
before.
sure.
I had never felt that to the depth that I did.
I know that when I went through my divorce, and this is 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember I was surrounded by people that all wanted to help,
Mhm.
but I was completely alone. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? At
Yep.
that time, and
Hundred.
it was agonizing because
Mhm.
you identified with this other person of who
Right.
you were, right? So I get it, and I
Yeah.
totally, regardless of how it ended or how they are as a person or whatever. I try to look at this is one powerful thing, and this is you. I consider this. I'm still meeting you in that, but
Yeah.
you saying that he was so important to me in
Mhm.
that regard. I'm paraphrasing, but
For sure,
that
yeah.
says a lot about you. That says a lot
Mm.
about your character, and
Yeah.
that's the way I try to. I never wanted to talk poorly around the kids about
Mhm.
their, about the relationship I had um, with their mother, and it wasn't the place for it. But
Right.
I get it. Okay, now I get it. Okay, don't let me interrupt again. So
No. No,
continue
not
on.
at all. No, it's good to, have your comments and, support. And I think, for me, the thing that really, I mean, there was a couple things that helped me through that time. Number 1, my dog at the
Good.
time,
Yeah.
Phineas, was just like, he was the only, I mean, he was literally the only reason I would get out of bed,
Sure.
because he relied on me
Yeah.
to
They're pretty
feed
special
him,
though.
walk him.
They're pretty special.
Oh,
I
100%. I
mean,
mean, and I needed that structure. Like, I
yeah,
needed that push in order to take care of myself,
yeah, yeah.
by taking care of him. And so through that, and then I was listening to a podcast with Zachary Levi, and he was
Mm,
talking about this, he was talking about how after he had shot the first Shazam, or right
mhm.
before he shot the first Shazam, he was the most depressed he's ever been. He was, having suicidal ideations. And he was talking about how he went to this like wellness house basically in Connecticut that like helped him get through everything.
Manage it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And it was number one, it was a couple things for me. It was like, this person who I followed him since Chuck. I'm like a big fan of his work. And I was like, this person who I've had such a like is just such an inspiration to me.
sure.
He's experiencing what I'm feeling right now. Um, and this was before people really talking, like celebrities were really talking about their mental health. So like
Mhm.
him talking about it was very impactful for me. And then second, I was like, man, he has so many resources at his
Right,
fingertips.
right. And he
And
still had, yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
and so many of us don't.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I want to put together a website, something that is a platform for people to also have resources. And so that's why I built originally the website, which was just about like non-traditional mental health resources.
Mhm.
It just has a compilation of like TED Talks and all sorts of things that are just like, here's a place, if you're feeling sad, you can go and like find something that will hopefully spark something for you. like I've never said that I'm a therapist. I've never said that like I
Right.
very much have my own therapist, so I will share that clinical knowledge. But I'm really just like sometimes all you need is a spark
Hmm.
to kind of push you into a different state of mind, and I just want to be that spark.
Sure. And I
And
totally agree with you on that. And
yeah,
even on your podcast, you state, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. You
mhm,
say that first thing.
yep,
And it's almost better that you're not,
yeah,
because I think people
mhm,
will listen. Not everybody wants that. They're not in the mindset yet for that.
mhm,
You advocate for, and I do too, for
mhm,
therapists, for,
yep,
getting to talk to somebody that's qualified.
right,
Um, and, you need people to listen, but I do
mhm,
think that you need to have somebody that's actually a professional that deals
yes,
with this. Um, because I've had bad experiences with that too.
yeah, oh, me
Uh,
too.
Improper guidance, and it just took me down a completely different path. Thank God
Right.
thank God I got out of that. But yeah, continue. I'm sorry. keep
No, not
keep
at all.
cutting you
Yeah,
off.
that's basically that's how I got started in it, was just like really wanting to like both having Finn to take care of and then realizing that like I wanted to help take care of other people.
Hmm.
Just having a purpose in my day
Do you feel
was
like you get
really
lost
important.
with helping other people? I mean, empathy and compassion is important. Sometimes I've felt like it's like I've wanted to help people so much, and it's almost like it's an addiction
Hmm.
to get to be distracted from my own. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, it does, but my therapist at the time, who I haven't seen her in a little while, but like when I was starting this, and this was also when I was like getting through my divorce, like
Hmm.
she was so important for me, especially I mean, in a lot of ways, but like in the founding of More Than You See, she really, because at the same time, just to like sidebar, I was doing these talks for the Mighty, which is a mental health, like huge mental health platform. And
Hmm.
so every week I was coming online and answering people's questions. And like would bring a topic. And this became big during COVID. This is a
Sure.
big thing I did during COVID. And and it was interesting because so many of those like interactions that was having were very draining, but
Hmm.
also potentially problematic. Like if I didn't have my therapist to kind of reframe things for me, they would have potentially been damaging, because I had people that would come on there and say, I don't want to live anymore. I'm thinking
Hmm.
like these are my steps to that I'm thinking about committing suicide. Like I had people that were being very brutally honest about those things, and she really helped me figure out how to build my own framework as far as like this is how I can help them, and then that's it. Like I
Right.
my help can only go so far, and then I need to take care of myself. And these people on the internet are not um my responsibility.
Right. Free
Um
will is a funny thing, because
yeah,
you want it, but that says again a lot about you. You're compassionate, and your empathy is who you are.
yeah.
And that's that's why you're on the podcast. That's why you're on here.
Well, thank you. And I
Um,
mean, I think that so many and one of the things that she really reminded me is she was like, anyone who's most people who are vocalizing that are actually not in danger of hurting themselves.
right.
Um,
Right.
and so that was such a good reminder, where she was like, you listen, you empathize, you support them, you give them resources, and then you take a step back and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So it's that you can't get drawn in 100% into taking care of someone else's problems.
Right. I mean, empathy and sympathy are two different things,
Yeah, for sure.
and you can really spiral down. I take on a lot of energy from people, and
Mhm,
I
same.
can, when I get, I might not even know them, and I hear their story. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I have to
Yeah,
unplug. I want to help them, but it's like got to the point where it's like, okay, I have to put a kibosh on that.
for sure.
I wish them well and do, like you said, give them resources, whatever. But there's got to be some type of separation. Sounds like
Yeah.
it was a good therapist though.
Oh,
Oh,
she was incredible. The only reason I stopped seeing her is she moved to I don't remember where she lives now, and then
Mhm.
I kind of have been in a space that I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good right now. So
Good.
I'm basically taking a pause, but
Good. Well, you've
um,
been busy. You've been
yeah,
super
I've
busy.
been busy.
You've
Yeah,
okay. So tell everybody let's kind of move out of that because they
yeah,
kind of know the activist side of it now, which is just scratching the surface. And you guys can follow the links in the description about that, and we'll tell you all about that. How did I mean, tell them what you got going. I mean, when you you got so much happening right now, and
yeah.
I'm just I let me tell everybody. I'm gonna kind of not sell the sizzle here. It's the steak because so if you guys have watched Netflix at all, Butterfly in the Sky, the documentary with LeVar Burton about
Reading
rain,
Rainbow.
reading Rainbow,
Hmm.
um, it's an amazing documentary.
Thank you.
And for some reason, up till this morning, I did not realize that you were a co-producer on
Yeah,
it. So I
yeah.
am like over the moon that it was so heartwarming. It was such a good, I love him anyway, but it was just so good. And I'm so happy that you're part of it. You've
Thank
got
you.
you document this documentary that's going to be forever now. And
Hmm.
it's going to show the generations about what you grew up with,
Hmm.
what all of us grew up with pretty
Yeah.
much. Um, how did that happen? And then we'll talk about what you got going. How did that
Yeah.
transpire? Because that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, so that was one where the main producer on that is a friend of mine. He he actually, I remember when the directors, because the directors started the project, Brad and
Hmm.
Brett, and
Yep.
I remember when they contacted him and were like, "Hey, we want you to help on this project." And he actually called me because I was kind of like his confidant when it came to producing projects. He would always like screen everything by me. He would
Cool.
call me his manager.
Cool.
And so he ran this project by me, and I was like, "Yeah, of course you should do it. It's Reading Rainbow. Like, this is
All
awesome."
right, man. No
Um
doubt. No doubt.
yeah, and so then, he said yes, he continued to develop it. Um, I normally do narratives, like, I normally do scripted projects
Hmm.
and act, and then again, this was during COVID, and so it happened to be where and it was a very small crew, there's only, like, 6 of us. So it wasn't something where he was like where I was on the project from the beginning because he was like, "I need lots of help." It was a very small thing.
Yep.
But it happened that he was too busy. He had too many projects going on at the moment. And so he needed someone to help be the travel producer because we ended up traveling to a bunch of different states in order to get all of the interviews in it
Sure.
because the documentary is really about the people who created Reading Rainbow.
Hmm. And they're
Um,
scattered. They're all over
yeah,
the place.
they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we did multiple places in New York, we did Connecticut, Florida,
And
DC,
this is during COVID when you guys shot
during
it.
COVID. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That
so
must have been
I
super stressful. I mean,
it was, but, like, thankfully, because it was a small crew, like, because we were very indie and very low budget, like,
yeah,
I would I would find us, like, local testing places that were run by the city, like,
got it.
free testing places,
Yeah,
and we would all just, like, show up together and get tested together, and, thankfully, none of us we all stayed COVID free
that's
the whole
great. That's
time.
awesome. Good.
Yeah,
That's good.
it was
Well, it
great,
was meant
but
to be. It was meant
yes.
to be because I mean, yeah, and those type of things, like I said, that is making a huge difference in what
Mhm.
you're doing. I mean, Netflix, yeah, okay, it's great and all that, and the distributing, all that, that's great. But it's what you're doing though, just the creative part of it. And I'm glad that you're friends. I'm glad that you networked properly, and I'm glad that you did it because
Yeah.
it's so cool.
Thank
It's
you.
so cool.
Yeah. Like, showing that film to people has been my, like, biggest joy so far,
You should, well, yeah,
as a
and
filmmaker.
embrace it because you guys need to watch it if you haven't watched it yet because it's just if you remember anything about that, it's an eye opener. The best thing about it, the best thing about it was the Bat Cave,
Yeah.
the and the microphone guy. Okay, I
Mhm.
won't even talk about that, but it's
Yeah.
so yeah, I kind of I'm glad we weren't eating when we watched it. But
Yes.
besides that, everything
Mhm.
was just fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get into what you got going. What do you have happening right now? You got so much going on. So
I do. I mean, just trying to enjoy life is
yeah,
the hardest
yeah,
thing. Surviving in Los Angeles. But I mean, as far as projects wise, like I've
yeah,
got this next documentary that I'm doing because now I'm actually really excited by documentaries.
sure,
Um, I have this documentary called Sell Your House, which is a very quirky. A lot of people are comparing it to American Movie. If you've seen
hmm
American Movie,
hmm
it's a quirky story about two friends where one friend sold his $1 million LA home in order to fund his friend's first feature film. And it tracks that decision and then production of the film and then trying to sell the film and, like through the post production and all of that
sure,
kind of thing. So it really is like behind the scenes of like true independent film where there is no outside studio who is, you know, both throwing money at it as well as like giving notes that are
sure,
problematic or whatever.
sure,
Um, and so it's really a like David or Goliath story because it's about these like two unlikely characters who are trying to accomplish something spectacular and
hmm
how difficult it is to follow your dreams, how
And what
difficult
are you
it
willing
is,
to give up? I
yeah,
mean,
what you're willing to give up to
yeah,
have people believe in you, like,
hmm
really, um, yeah, it's been a really interesting experience being the producer on that and tracking that. Um,
but there's still crowdfunding
we're
for it.
still crowdfunding, yeah, I
hmm
mean, we just have a few more days left in our crowdfunding campaign. But if anyone listens to this and our crowdfunding is over and you're like, hey, I want to give you guys $100 to help support us, like we would be so grateful. So you're
We'll make sure we got the
welcome to
links in
reach out
there.
to us.
Sure. Yep.
Um, yeah, but I mean, like, even that has been interesting because the industry is like in a really difficult place right now. And like I know that this isn't necessarily an industry podcast, so like I could go on for hours about, you
Feel
know,
free. I was going to ask you, how the strike affected all of us, me included. But
yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
and that's just the tip of the iceberg,
I
But
think, yeah, the strike definitely affected everything. I think
mhm,
though that there's always been this bias in Hollywood that if you make a movie, so that it's very interesting. If you go to find financing from film
mhm,
financiers, it is impossible. It is very, very difficult to find funding for something between a dollar and like $300,000.
right,
Like that
right.
that's very difficult. It's pretty much you have to go knock
Do
on
it, yeah. Sell your
doors.
house, or yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Sell your house, go find a dentist,
yep,
like that's basically what you have to do. Then they say between 500,000 and a million, don't even try. Like
just- yeah,
that's where it's going to be impossible for you to raise it to self-fund it unless you sell your house. And financiers still not interested. Then you get to like the $1 million
mhm,
range. And then suddenly financiers are show up and are willing to invest in people. And um it's just such a like even through this experience with this film has been so interesting because the footage that we have and the film that we have and that we've made so far on a very, very minimal budget is spectacular. Like, it's
mhm.
really good, and we actually are starting to someone, has seen some of the work and is actually interested in trying to turn it into a TV show. So, like,
Good,
we're in
good,
progress of, like, that would be incredible.
sure,
But, it's just so interesting that people don't, or outside finance doesn't believe in you if you're under a certain amount of money because they think it's just not going to be good enough. um it's kind of like that thing where they say, like, when you're pricing out your products or whatever, like, even if it only costs you $2, make sure that you sell it for 20,
Yeah,
because if you sell it for $2, people will think that the thing is cheap.
sure.
And then that's low quality, which isn't necessarily the case, you know?
Right. It's just a
It's such a
mindset.
mind game,
Yeah.
but it's such a reminder that, like, the film industry is business. Um,
That's
and
one way to put it. Yeah, it is
yeah,
a business.
it
Yeah.
it is, you know, and I think that that has been interesting with this film in particular. I'm working with 2 directors who have never, directed features before, and they've never distributed a film before,
And
and so
that's a whole nother distribution is a huge
it's a
that in
huge
itself is
it's
another
huge, yeah,
hurdle, you know.
and so it's been interesting trying to explain to them what that means and what that entails.
Right.
Um,
Well, just building the package. I mean, I'm learning all about, decks, movie decks, all these
yeah,
things that I had
yeah,
no concept of 3 or 4 years ago,
right.
and it's mind-blowing.
Yep,
It's so daunting. There might not be many gatekeepers anymore,
yep,
but the fact of all the hurdles you have to jump in order
right.
to get, yeah. So good on you though. Good.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
it's good. So, yeah, so I've got that one
yeah.
that we're chugging away on, but it's very exciting, and if you're interested, um, I would tell everyone to follow our Instagram. It's just Sell Your House Film. We've got lots of fun clips and behind the scenes photos from the film, and the film that we followed is actually called The Last Stop at Yuma County. It came out May 10th
Hmm.
and was, in top 5 of iTunes for many, many days. Like,
Awesome.
it's actually doing very well. The director, this first time feature director, he's now attached to 3 different studio films,
That's great.
including the next Evil Dead movie, and that is
Cool.
because he is such a visionary, and so
Hmm.
it's really fun that our film captures this, like, coming of age for him.
Right. That's
Um,
so cool. That's so
yeah,
cool.
so I'm excited about it.
You're making a difference in all different fields, it sounds like. But
Trying,
what
yeah.
is the the is it private finance, or is it just like, hey, we've got a company that is a
Mhm.
movie investor, or
Yep,
is it something, or is it just like you have a wealthy actor or
both,
athlete? Okay.
both. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I would say film financiers,
Yeah.
companies, that's where they really, like, they will not look at you if you're
Yeah.
under $1,000,000.
Yeah. I've heard that before, and it's like
Yeah,
the old adage that if you have a library card, and if everybody would want one if they charged $100 for a library card, but they're
right,
free, so nobody
right.
wants the library card.
Yeah.
So, what else? What other projects? Okay, that's the big one. But what
That's the
other
big
things?
one, and then I'm getting back into, like, the biggest impact that the strike has been on
Mhm.
me as an actor,
Yeah.
as it has with everyone, like, it's just, like, there is less work, there is fewer characters on shows, there is, there is fewer time as far as turnaround, so people are not willing to take chances on unknowns. So if it's like,
Right.
I have the casting directors that I know, and so they'll call me in. But to break into a new office now is even more
Difficult.
challenging than it
Sure.
was a couple years ago. Um, and my answer for that is basically to just continue creating my own content on the side, and then that
And
will
I think you're spot on. I think that
eventually develop.
one of the things that we've been talking about, that Craig Holland, the producer, and I have been talking about, is the lack of new material. I mean,
Yes.
that's actually everything's a reboot.
Yeah,
We've been
everything's
seeing
IP.
that. Everybody's been seeing that for the
Yep.
last, literally almost 10 years. So it's
Yeah,
like it's just insane. I think that it's always good to bet on yourself,
for sure.
and I think that you've got the right attitude. And I think that I know a lot of people that are just doing their own thing now. They'll get the finance, they'll figure it out,
Yep.
um, myself included. And I think that there's definitely, yeah, I think that you're backing yourself is the way to do it.
Thank
Absolutely the way to
you.
do it.
Yeah, I mean, You have to, and that's where, you know, my boyfriend, my partner,
Mhm.
him and I write together, and so we have multiple projects that we're writing together,
Awesome. Awesome.
and we have a short that we shot in April that we're in post-production on, that I starred in and that he co-wrote, and I produced and he directed. And so that's a project that was a very purposeful move, because one of the features that we're writing, we intend for him to direct it. And so we wanted to, and it's about women's issues. Like the short is actually about miscarriage.
Mm.
And then the feature is about a woman freezing her eggs. And so it was important for us to be able to have him direct another piece that was about a like woman issue,
Mhm.
to prove that his voice is still important and matters in this space. And you know, the real reason that we really want him to to direct this feature that we're writing is that there's some big twists in the feature that really require, I mean, so much thought and care, and we're basically writing it for him to direct. And so it's one of those things where we wanted to shoot this short film, and I think he's had some really incredible work in the past with festivals and that kind of stuff. And so
Mhm.
I think that this is another one that's going to just showcase him as a director. And
Put
yeah.
another feather in his cap. Well,
Yeah.
and I mean that subject is so sensitive,
Mhm.
and I think that if you can bring some relief, some
Mhm.
awareness to it, some compassion to it,
For
I
sure.
think that you're going to have a huge fan base on
I
that, and
think
I
so
think it would
too.
help people. It would help
Yeah.
people ultimately. And that's your stage.
It's true.
That's what you're doing. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
what um, what are the if there was one thing you could change in Hollywood, what would it be for actors or for movies?
I think, I mean, movies, I mean, that would be like the old, you know, just like taking bets on people and
Sure.
allowing, you know, new stories to be told. I think though, communication,
Hmm.
an increase in communication. I think that the film industry is the only industry in a to a point where you can, like the amount of like ghosting that happens, the amount of um lack of communication from people, the amount of just like disrespect in communication
I
that
was going to say
happens
that word exactly. Yeah, that's
is just
exactly what it is. Yeah.
really, yeah, is really disheartening. And I think that part of it comes from, like, the industry has had such a explosion since, you know, like, I don't know, the early 2000s, because
Hmm.
so many people, like, anyone can create now, you know, like, anyone with an iPhone can create. Anyone with, um, you know, IMDb Pro can go and email, you know, you can
Sure.
email agents just by getting a subscription for IMDb Pro for $150 a
Sure.
year, you know? So, like, the access, I understand, has increased, and so that therefore causes more roadblocks, and like gatekeepers to
Hmm.
pop up. But I think that it's like, for me as an actor, for example, um, the fact that you can be put on hold for something and then like get really far down in the
Hmm.
process and then never hear anything is mind-blowing,
Yeah.
because it's something where it's like, if you were in a job interview and you've been interviewed 4 times and then they drop off the face of the planet, like, you'd be like, "What? Did I get it? Did I not get the job? Like, what happened?" You
Yeah,
know?
you don't leave people hanging. I mean, that's
Right.
terrible, especially
And
in that
so,
industry because
yeah,
it's life's
and I
blood. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that, you know, like, um this isn't actually really a personal vendetta, because like, I have just become accustomed to it, but I just think that if there was, again, that like respect
Hmm.
towards each other as fellow creatives and as being a part of this industry together, like, if we're really in this industry together,
Hmm.
then like, absolutely, I'm going to reach out to people and be like, hey, so sorry you didn't get the role. Like I'm very careful about that on stuff that I produce, and being like, hey, we actually, even with crew, hey, we actually filled those positions. Thanks for reaching out, whatever, you know?
Mhm. Well, I think that that's
Um,
just being a good human. I mean,
truly.
yeah, I don't think it's much to ask. And I
Yeah,
think if you're a bigger studio, you have more people to
right,
handle that kind of stuff. I don't know
right,
even why you wouldn't have
right.
that.
Exactly.
Um, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. What do you want to accomplish in the next 5 years, 10 years?
Ooh. Um, I want to. It's interesting because um I used to really do like the goal thing where I would have like
Sure.
goals,
You and me
and
both. Yeah.
yeah, and I have found that in what I have started to do instead, which has been very helpful for me, is to break up my year into quarters and then think about how I want to focus on different aspects of my career in quarters and in quarter check-ins. And that has really allowed me to continue to like actually have a bit of a work-life balance, but also propel things forward in a really impactful way.
Okay.
Um, and so definitely like continuing to just like focus, because I guess the thing, and this doesn't work for everyone, because for me, I'm very good at keeping a lot of plates spinning in the air at the same time. So like just because I'm focusing on one thing, it doesn't mean those other plates are still like those plates are still spinning.
Yeah.
I've just like either handed them off to someone else to spin while I go and focus on this other thing, or they're just like subconsciously floating in the air right behind, you know?
Hmm.
So like I know that that doesn't work for everyone, but for me, I have found that like segmenting things out like that have been very helpful. And so, truly just to like continue with like conscious choices behind my projects, and what I am focusing on in those quarters and in those years. Um, I mean, of course, my like goals, big goals, 10-year goals would be to be uh lead ensemble or the lead on a show, on a TV show, and then to continue to produce projects on the side during my hiatus and
Excellent.
when I'm
That's
waiting in the trailer. Like that is, I am always going to want to have multiple things going, and then it's not just about me, it's about other projects and other voices that I can support. And then of course to just continue to grow More Than You See, my mental health platform, and um I just want to continue to support and advocate for that and for that group of people as well.
Those are very achievable goals. I think you're going to be
Thank you.
surprised at how well you're going to be doing. And I can't wait to witness it all. I think it's just going to be it's going to be a real treat. It's going to be a
Thank
real
you.
treat. Where can everybody reach you? We're going to put them in the descriptions, but where can everybody reach you?
I mean, my Instagram is a great place.
Mhm.
Just Deborah underscore L Smith. Because someone in like the Midwest has Deborah Lee Smith, so I have to be creative. and
Got it.
and yeah, that's really the best part, and I'm really an open book, so,
Mhm.
just reach out to me, ask any questions. I actually had someone the other day who reached out from Kansas who read an article that I wrote years ago about moving to LA versus New York as an actor, and she reached out and she was like, "Hey, this is my story. I'm thinking about deciding between these 2 places. What has changed? Do you have any advice for me?" And we had a really lovely conversation, and she's leaning towards LA, and I was like, "Let me know when you're in LA, I'll take you to coffee. I'd love to meet with you."
Good.
So, I really like supporting other people,
Sure.
and so I'm happy to provide that.
Don't lose that, because
Oh, I won't. Right.
that's a huge, that's why the world's going to be better, because
Well, thank
people like you that do that, because it's even I try to do that and it's not always something I succeed at. So don't lose it, because I
difficult,
think
but
it's,
it's important.
right.
Yeah.
Right. um Thank you for doing this. Oh, tell everybody your YouTube channel and your podcast. Tell them
Yeah.
where they get on Spotify. Tell them about that real quick, because I want them
So,
to
yeah, More Than You See is my podcast, about mental health conversations, but we also just talk about all sorts of different things just with creatives. And so just search for More Than You See on both Instagram and YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find it, see my face, you're in the right place.
Yep. And that's how actually I met you through Laverne McKinnon, which name drop.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen that, both of us have done really good interviews with Laverne. She's been awesome. So you can check that out. Thank you. Stick around for a minute after I'm done shutting the show down, but I appreciate it. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So we'll see you in a minute. So there you have it, guys. I don't know, I can't do it justice though. You have to see Deborah for who she is. And I recommend that you guys check out the movies that she's been in, everything that she's done, whether it's on IMDb or, whatever it is, Instagram, any of it, podcast wise, YouTube wise, obviously follow her, because I think that the message that she's projecting is well worth it. And, we're witnessing greatness, guys. We're witnessing some amazing things with different people that I'm bringing in, but especially with Deborah. So I appreciate you guys sticking around. No envy, no fear. Make sure that you guys are being good to somebody this week, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again.